Good morning, guys. Welcome back from fall break. I will be teaching your lessons from Wit and Wisdom. So today we are starting Module 2, Lesson 1. See if we can get my pen to work this morning. So, what would your face look like after you've discovered something? Think about if you've discovered something out in your yard and you were what? You'd be going, oh my goodness, look at this. You would just be so excited, wouldn't you? And you would want to run and tell somebody about it, right? Yeah, okay. So discovering something makes us feel excited about something, all right? So our essential question, meaning that is the big overall question, is what can we discover about animals' unique features? So what can you gather by that question? We're going to be talking about animals' features, but the uniqueness of their features. So what would you like to learn more about animal features? We know each animal has different tails. They act differently to protect themselves. Maybe how they adapt to their environments. I'm just kind of curious about all those different things, and I'm hoping in these next few lessons that we're going to be able to find out more about how they use their features to do all these different things in their environments. So we're in our Think, Pair, Share. Well, it's kind of hard for us to think, pair, share when we're doing virtual, all right? But what did you discover about books during Module 1? So think back before fall break. What did you learn about all those books? Now remember, we read many stories about books, such as Waiting for the Biblioburro, and then you read a few informational texts, such as My Librarian is a Camel. But during this module, we're going to read informational text that's going to teach them about animals. Okay? But first, we're going to be reading stories that tell imaginary tales about adventures of a few animals. So let's get started with this. Our focus question is the smaller question, is what lessons can we learn through stories about animals? Can we learn lessons from animals? Well, I'm thinking we can, right? Because I think I can learn some lessons from my dog at home. Maybe they can tell me to stay away from something because they sense things like danger or something. They can pull you back. They can protect you. So hopefully we can find out some new lessons from animals here. So what do I notice and wonder about Aesop's fables? Well, a fable is a short story that is usually about animals, and it teaches us a lesson. So we're going to be reading some fables that's going to teach us some lessons on how to act. So our first lesson or fable that we are going to read is The Ants and the Grasshopper. The Ants and the Grasshopper. One bright day in late autumn, a family of ants were bustling about in the warm sunshine, drying out the grain they had stored up during the summer, when a starving grasshopper, his fiddle under his arm, came up and humbly begged for a bite to eat. "What?" cried the ants in surprise. "Haven't you stored anything away for the winter? What in the world were you doing all last summer?" Well, I didn't have time to store up any food, whined the grasshopper. I was so busy making music that before I knew it, the summer was gone. The ants shrugged their shoulders in disgust. Making music, were you? They cried. Very well, now dance. And they turned their backs on the grasshopper and went on with their work. Wow. So what did you think of that? What were you noticing about the ants? What were they doing? They were doing a lot of working, weren't they? They were collecting food for the winter. But what did you notice about the grasshopper? What was he doing? Was he collecting food? No, he wasn't. He was playing, wasn't he? He was playing his music. So was he preparing for the winter? No, he wasn't. Wow. So the moral of this story, or the lesson from this story, is there's a time for work and there's a time for play. A time for work and a time for play. Hold on. Hold on, my friends. Let me pause here a second so I can move my screen back. All right, my friends, sorry, I couldn't get my computer to work for me. So we've read about the ants and the grasshoppers, so let's generate some questions and answers. Now, we don't have a question cube, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna come up with some questions that we can ponder about this story, okay? We're gonna come up with some questions about this story. So I'm going to pause it one more time. Okay, so right now we're gonna generate some questions and answers. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pause my slideshow and we're gonna look at this chart right here. We're gonna come up with some questions about the ant and the grasshopper, okay? We're gonna come up with some questions. Let me get my marker here. So let's think about some questions that we want to find out. So one thing is, maybe, what are the ants doing? What are the ants doing? Okay, great question. And you know another great question would be, why isn't the grasshopper working? Why isn't the grasshopper working? That's another great question. What's another question we could come up with? Oh, why didn't the ants share with the grasshopper? Why didn't the ants share with the grasshopper? Wow, those are some great questions. Now, let's think about these questions. We've read the story. Is there any way that we can answer any of these questions? Well, we know the answer to why isn't the grasshopper working, what was he doing instead? He was playing his music. So I'm going to put that over here as a complete answer because an answer in progress, that's not where we're at with this because we actually know what was going on with the grasshopper. So we're going to put it as a complete answer. Why isn't he working? Grasshopper was playing his music instead of working, wasn't he? Yes. And what are the ants doing? Well, we know the ants are working and they are gathering food for what? The winter. So we could almost put that as a complete answer. Ants are gathering food for winter. Okay, why didn't the ants share with the grasshopper? That one's more of a thinking question there. Why didn't they want to share with the grasshopper? What happened with them? Okay, so why didn't the ants share with the grasshopper? Because they had been working all summer in gathering food while the grasshopper had been playing. So the ants didn't share food. The ants were upset with the grasshopper because he played all summer instead of working. Wow, that's a lot to take in, isn't it? It sure is. Okay, so I'm going to move this aside, and that way we can get back into our lesson again. Okay, so we did our question and answer chart. We didn't have a cube to roll, so we just kind of went with what we were doing, okay? So we are going to read another fable. It's called The Hare and the Tortoise. So let's bring that up. There we go. Let me this over some more. This is called The Hare and the Tortoise. And let's see what lesson we learned from this. A hare was making fun of the tortoise one day for being so slow. Do you ever get anywhere? He asked with a mocking laugh. Yes, replied the tortoise, and I get there sooner than you think. I'll run you a race and prove it. The hare was much amused at the idea of running a race with the tortoise, but for the fun of the thing, he agreed. So the fox, who had consented to act as judge, marked the distance and started the runners off. The hare was soon far out of sight, and to make the tortoise feel very deeply how ridiculous it was for him to try to race with the hare, he lay down beside the course to take a nap until the tortoise should catch up. The tortoise, meanwhile, kept going slowly but steadily, and after a time, he passed the place where the hare was sleeping. But the hare slept on very peacefully, and when at last he did wake up, the tortoise was near the goal. The hare now ran his swiftest, but he could not overtake the tortoise in time. So the moral of this story is the race is not always to the swift. Wonder what that means. Do you think maybe that means that he was making fun of the tortoise so much because he thought, oh, I'm so quick, I'm so fast, I can do this, I can do that, and you're not going to beat me, ha, ha, ha. And then he's like, you know what, I'm just so far ahead, I'm just going to lay down here and I'm going to take me a nap. But then he laid there so long that the tortoise passed him up, and the tortoise won the race because he kept a steady pace, whereas the rabbit, the hare, decided, you know, I don't need to keep going. I'm just going to sit here and rest and wait a while. And look what happened. He was so swift, he got tired, he rested, but the tortoise kept a steady pace and he won the race. All right, so let's move on. So we're going to do another generating questions and answer chart, all right, with who, when, what, where, why, and how. So I am going to pause our screen up here, and I'm going to bring our chart back over that we just used with the ants and the grasshopper. And let me erase this one because we're going to generate some new questions for our story. So I'm going to have to pause. Okay, guys, I've got my chart cleaned off. That was a little harder than what I thought it was going to be. So now let's talk about the hare and the tortoise. Let's think about some of the questions that we want to find out from this story. Well, I want to know, who moves more slowly? Who moves more slowly? So I'm going to write that question up here. Who moves more slowly? All right, that is a great question. What are tortoise and hare doing? What are they doing in this story? What are hare and tortoise doing? Great. Why do you think the hare makes fun of tortoise? That is another great question. Why is hare making fun of tortoise? And another great question is, how does tortoise win the race? Well, let's think about these questions that we have up here. Who moves more slowly? Well, we know hare thinks that the tortoise moves slowly. So that's almost an answer in progress. We could put hare thinks tortoise moves slowly. Well, you would think that because being a turtle, they do move slowly, right? Right. Okay. And a hare, being a rabbit, they get around pretty quickly. All right. But tortoises actually do move more slowly. Tortoises do move slowly. Our complete answer is tortoises do move slowly. Great. So what are hare and tortoise doing? What are they doing during this lesson? We know they're racing. So we can put that as a complete answer. They're racing. Why is hare making fun of tortoise? What was hare doing? He was going, ha, 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 I can beat you, I'm the fastest, right? So he was making fun of tortoise. So hare thinks that he's moved slowly, that he's slow. So it kind of goes along with this answer up here. Hare thinks tortoise moves slowly. How does tortoise win the race? Tortoise doesn't rest during the race, does he? He just keeps on going. He doesn't rest. He doesn't rest. He keeps going. Nice. Okay. So I'm going to move our chart and I'm going to put our slides back up there. There we go. All right, so let's move on to the next slide here. So, what did I notice and wonder about Aesop's fables? A fable, remember, is a short story that is usually about animals and teaches us a lesson. So what lessons have we learned about our two fables? With the ants and the grasshopper, what did we learn there? We need to work before play, don't we? Yes, it's important to work before we play. And that's true in classrooms also. When you're doing your schoolwork, if you sit there and you play instead of working, then guess what's going to happen later when you really want to play? You're going to have to work. So make sure that you work before you play. And our lesson that we learned in the ants and the hare and the tortoise is don't stop to take a break. Just keep working steady and slowly, and you'll get your job done. Our deep dive. Ooh. So, our sketch of a hare. So a hare is a rabbit, right? So what I want you to do right now is I want you to sketch a hare on a piece of paper. Now think about this. When you draw a hare, what kind of part should you have on this hare? Well, you should have a head, ears, feet, legs, body, whiskers, eyes, right, and a mouth. Okay, so I'm going to draw a quick sketch of a hare. So I would think my hair, maybe those ears are a little bit big there. There's its eye, its little nose, its whiskers, its little mouth, and then here's its body, its legs, there's its back legs, its tail end. It's got a cute little cottontail. All right, I think its head looks a little bit bigger than its body, but it serves the purpose. And I know your sketches are going to be much better than mine. All right. So that is the sketch of our hair. Now, these are features that we have drawn. We've drawn the ears, we've drawn a nose and the whiskers, the legs, the cottontail, the body. Those are features. Those are the features. So features are parts, right? Good. So I'm going to erase and move on from here. So, have you ever heard of that word before, features? Well, we know it means it's parts, right? It's parts. Like, what are features of yourself? Well, we have hair, we have ears, we have a nose, we have eyes, we have our necks, fingers, toes. Those are all features. So let's see here. Let's brainstorm a list of words that go with features. Let's think about that. Well, we just said them out loud, didn't we? So features, we know on animals, they may have ears and legs and whiskers and a head, right? Do we have whiskers? No, but men, maybe some men do. They may have mustaches or beards, so those are kind of like whiskers. That's what I call them on my husband, is whiskers. We have legs, we have arms and fingers, we have ears. So we have similar features, but they're made differently. Man almighty. There we go. So, features in your journal. I'm sure you probably have a journal going already from Unit 1. So in your journal, I want you to write the word features in your journal, and it's spelled right here on the board, F-A-T-U-R-E-S. And I want you to draw a sketch to help you remember what features mean. Okay? And once you've done that, color it in if you wish, and close it up. You actually may want to put the date on it too when you do this. All right, so that is the end of our lesson today. Make sure you get all that done, and I will see you again tomorrow.